You've seen them in your change 100 times, but did you know some 5-cent nickels are collector's treasures? Stick around as we explore the most remarkable nickels you can find, uncovering the hidden stories and unique details that make them truly special. By the end, you might never look at a simple nickel the same way again. Every coin has a story, and sometimes that story begins with something as simple as a small piece of change in your pocket. Today, we start our journey with the 2015 5-cent coin, the Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it's a coin you've probably seen hundreds of times. But look a little closer, and you'll find that even an everyday nickel can have details and history worth noticing. The Jefferson nickel has been part of American life since 1938. It replaced the Buffalo nickel and introduced a new design by sculptor Felix Schlag, who featured Thomas Jefferson on the front and Jefferson's home, Monticello, on the back. Over the years, the design has evolved slightly, but its character has stayed the same: simple, balanced, and timeless. The 2015 version continues that long tradition while reflecting the craftsmanship of modern minting. That small P on the right side of the coin stands for the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and busiest mints in the United States. In 2015, it produced hundreds of millions of these nickels, each made from the familiar copper-nickel blend that gives the coin its silvery tone. Every one of them weighs 5 grams and measures 21.2 millimeters across, a perfect balance of design and durability. On the front of the coin, Jefferson looks directly forward. This portrait, introduced in 2006, gives a sense of connection, as if the founding father himself is watching over the values he helped shape. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust," while the script, "Liberty," and the year, 2015, sit neatly to the right. The writing of "Liberty" is based on Jefferson's actual handwriting, a subtle touch that ties the design personally to him. Flip the coin over, and you'll see Monticello, Jefferson's home in Virginia, with its distinctive dome and classical columns. Above it reads, "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one. Beneath the image are the words, "Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America." It's a familiar design, but one that never loses its quiet elegance. Millions of these coins were made, and most went straight into everyday circulation. They were spent, scratched, and passed through countless hands. But in that sea of coins, some stood out, not because they were rare, but because they were made or preserved a little differently. A few had sharper details, cleaner surfaces, or clearer strikes. Others escaped into collector hands before they ever saw wear. The 2015 nickel is a great example of how condition can turn an ordinary coin into something worth keeping. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing better condition. A well-struck, uncirculated nickel from this year, one that still shines with its original luster, can be a small treasure in a collection. It's not always about how much it's worth, but about how perfectly it represents the art of coin making. Even though modern technology has made minting incredibly consistent, no two coins are exactly identical. Sometimes small variations appear, a slightly off-center strike, a faint die crack, or a tiny doubling in the lettering. These details aren't always obvious, but for those who enjoy searching coin rolls or inspecting their change closely, finding a coin with a unique feature can be satisfying. What makes the 2015 nickel special is how it connects both history and modern minting. The design honors one of the nation's founders, yet it's produced with 21st century precision. It's a link between past and present, between tradition and technology. Even something as small as a 5-cent coin reflects the careful work of engravers, machinists, and quality inspectors. Jefferson wasn't just a statesman, he was an inventor and architect. Monticello, the home shown on the coin's reverse, was his personal creation, filled with his ideas and inventions. When you look at the 2015 nickel, you're seeing more than a building. You're seeing Jefferson's imagination cast in metal, a reflection of American creativity and endurance. For collectors, nickels like this one are a gateway. They're easy to find, affordable, and full of details to study. Searching through rolls or change can turn into a small treasure hunt. Most of what you find will be ordinary, but every so often, one coin stands out, a perfect surface, a crisp strike, or a subtle error. And even if you never find a standout piece, the process itself teaches you to see coins differently. You start to notice how each one tells a story, how the shine changes with age, how the details wear down over time, how the symbols and words connect to the nation's history. Some 2015 p nickels in exceptional condition can be considered quite desirable among collectors. Their worth isn't measured only by money, but by the precision and preservation they represent. Finding one in pristine condition, free from marks or wear, is like uncovering a tiny piece of perfection. The story of this coin also reminds us how far U.S. coinage has come. Early coins were struck by hand, often uneven or off-center. Today, the mint uses advanced machinery capable of producing thousands of coins per minute with near-perfect uniformity. Yet even with all that progress, the essence remains the same. Each coin is still a small piece of art, carrying the values and identity of a nation. So next time you get a handful of change, take a moment to look at the nickels. You might find one with that small, peaked mint mark and a bit of extra shine, maybe even a perfectly struck piece that's been waiting for someone to appreciate it. Sometimes, history isn't in a museum, it's right there in your pocket, quietly holding its place in the story of everyday life. Now let's move on to the second coin. This one comes from the turn of the millennium, the 2000 Jefferson nickel. A coin that, at first glance, looks almost identical to the nickels we use every day, yet certain examples from this year have surprised collectors with an incredible story behind them. The year 2000 marked a symbolic transition. The United States Mint had just closed out 1 century of coinage and was preparing for the next. In Denver, where this particular nickel was struck, that's what the small letter D below the date stands for. Minting technology was becoming faster, cleaner, and more precise than ever before. Millions of nickels rolled out of the presses that year, each made from the same reliable copper-nickel alloy, weighing exactly 5 grams, and carrying the same Jefferson design that had defined the denomination for more than 6 decades. On the front of the 2000 nickel, Thomas Jefferson's left-facing portrait appears calm and composed. The inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," stretch neatly along the edges, framing his profile. Flip it over, and you'll find Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home, standing tall beneath the words, "E Pluribus Unum." It's a design that had become part of everyday American life, so ordinary that most people never really looked at it closely. But 2000 was not just another minting year. Beneath the surface of this ordinary-looking coin lies one of the more fascinating modern minting stories in the Jefferson series. A handful of these coins show features that shouldn't exist together, traits that make them extremely desirable to serious collectors. The United States Mint had been producing multiple denominations at once, using similar dies and planchets for different coins. Somewhere in that busy process, a rare error occurred. A small number of 2000 nickels were accidentally struck on planchets intended for a completely different coin, the planchets used for golden Sacagawea dollars. Those blank discs were slightly larger, thinner, and made from a manganese brass composition that gave them a distinctive golden hue. When one of those planchets found its way into a press fitted with nickel dies, the result was something that immediately stood out, a Jefferson nickel with a golden color and a noticeably lighter weight. For years, only a few of these pieces surfaced, mostly discovered by people who happened to notice that something about their change didn't look right. Instead of the usual silvery tone, these nickels had a warm gold sheen, yet the design was unmistakably that of Jefferson and Monticello. Experts confirmed that these were genuine minting mistakes, not plated or altered coins, making them an authentic and extremely scarce variety. Even beyond those famous wrong planchet examples, 2000 nickels are known for subtle variations that capture collectors' attention. Some coins show die cracks around Jefferson's eye or collar, while others have slightly off-center strikes or faint doubling in the inscriptions. These may not be as dramatic as the golden variety, but they demonstrate just how unique a single year's production can be. The Denver Mint itself adds another layer of interest. Compared with Philadelphia, Denver's output often has sharper details and a bit more luster, due to slightly different striking pressures and metal flow. Collectors who study Jefferson nickels closely can often tell where a coin was minted just by the style of its strike and finish. For 2000, the Denver issues are particularly well made, which makes any error or anomaly from this facility even more fascinating. Condition also plays a big role in a coin's appeal. Most 2000D nickels entered circulation quickly, picking up scratches and dull marks along the way. But a few survived untouched, bright, sharp, and nearly flawless. These high-grade examples, when paired with a special minting variety or error, can reach truly impressive levels of desirability. It's amazing to think that a coin minted for everyday use, something worth only 5 cents at face value, could hide so much intrigue. That's what makes coin collecting so interesting. You can study hundreds of ordinary nickels and suddenly come across one that's completely different. A slightly lighter color, a small misalignment, a unique texture, any of these could point to a piece that tells a bigger story. When you hold a 2000D Jefferson nickel, you're holding a moment of transition. It marks the end of one era of minting before the design changes of the mid-2000s began. It also reflects how precise, yet occasionally unpredictable, coin production can be. Every step, from preparing metal strips to striking the final design, leaves a signature. And once in a while, that signature turns an ordinary nickel into something extraordinary. Collectors who've spent years studying this series describe finding a standout 2000D as one of those unforgettable moments. You can almost imagine the reaction, noticing that golden glow or that perfect, crisp surface, realizing that this isn't just another coin from a cash register. It's something that slipped through the tightest of minting controls, preserved against the odds. The Jefferson nickel series has produced a few surprises over its long life, but the 2000D stands out for how modern and yet mysterious it feels. It's recent enough that people remember using them, yet rare enough in special forms that they've become legendary among enthusiasts. And here's the most remarkable part. Certain examples of the 2000D Jefferson nickel, particularly those struck on the wrong planchet and preserved in excellent condition, have been known to reach around $38,000. Next up, we have a coin that might look perfectly ordinary at first, the 1994 P. Jefferson nickel. It's another piece from a decade that didn't seem all that long ago, yet it holds a fascinating place in modern U.S. coinage. And for a few lucky collectors, it has proven to be an incredible find. The 1990s were an interesting time for the U.S. Mint. Technology was improving, production was increasing, and the quality of circulation coins was generally high. But as with many things in minting, perfection is never guaranteed. Every so often, something unusual slips through, and that's where the story of the 1994 P nickel gets interesting. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, represented by the small p just beside the date. Millions were made, enough to fill bags, rolls, and countless cash drawers across the country. Each one was struck in the familiar copper-nickel alloy, weighing 5 grams and measuring just over 21 millimeters in diameter. Like all Jefferson nickels, it features Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the front, facing left with calm dignity, surrounded by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," followed by the date. Flip it over, and you'll see the image of Monticello, Jefferson's beautiful Virginia home. Above it are the Latin words, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one, and below are the words, Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. It's a design that's been part of everyday American life for generations, simple, balanced, and instantly recognizable. But what makes the 1994 P nickel stand out isn't its basic design, it's what happened during production. While most coins from that year were perfectly normal, a very small number were struck under unusual circumstances, creating rare varieties that collectors hunt for even today. The most famous are the full-step nickels, coins where the steps on Monticello are fully visible, crisp, and separated. These tiny lines are among the hardest details to preserve during striking, and most nickels leave the press with the steps partially blurred. A 1994 P with sharp, complete steps on the reverse is rare enough to catch any collector's attention. But that's just the beginning. Some examples from this year also show die clashes, faint outlines of design elements that appear where they shouldn't, caused when the coin dies strike each other without a planchet between them. Others have subtle doubling on the letters or numbers, giving parts of the design a slightly doubled appearance under magnification. These small details turn an everyday nickel into a collectible piece of minting history. And then there's the handful of striking errors that make this date legendary: coins that were struck on the wrong type of planchet or had their layers improperly bonded. These are the rarest forms of the 1994 P nickel, the kind that turn up once in a lifetime and make even seasoned collectors look twice. Condition, as always, plays a big role. The Philadelphia Mint produced billions of coins in the 1990s, and most were handled heavily. But those few 1994 P nickels that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially with a full step strike, are incredibly hard to find today. Their sharp details and original mint luster make them small works of art, perfectly representing the craftsmanship of their time. What's fascinating about coins like this is how they blur the line between history and modernity. They're not ancient relics, but they still carry decades of history in their metal. They remind us that even a small 5-cent coin can reflect the precision and skill of American minting. And when something unusual happens, a perfect strike, an error, or a rare planchet, it captures a moment that can never be exactly repeated. In a way, the 1994 P nickel represents more than its design; it's a reminder of how tiny imperfections can lead to extraordinary results. Every coin pressed at the mint tells a story, but only a few are remembered for generations. That's what makes collecting so captivating, the thrill of finding one coin among millions that stands apart. Think about how many of these coins were made, and how few remain untouched, uncirculated, and perfectly preserved. Every one of those rare survivors is a reminder that even in a world of mass production, true perfection is fleeting, and that's exactly what collectors value most. For many, the Jefferson nickel is a quiet favorite. It's easy to overlook, yet rich with variety and subtle differences that reward careful observation. Whether you're searching through rolls, studying coin shows, or simply paying closer attention to your change, you never know when you might come across one of those hidden treasures. Collectors often say that the best finds come when you least expect them. A single coin can change the way you see your entire collection, or even spark a lifelong interest in the hobby. That's the magic of numismatics; it turns something ordinary into something memorable. And that's exactly what happened with a few of the 1994 P Jefferson nickels, those nearly flawless examples with sharp details, rare errors, and exceptional condition. Coins like that have amazed collectors for years. In some remarkable cases, they've reached values of around $55,000, an incredible outcome for something that began its life as a simple piece of change. So the next time you come across a nickel from the 1990s, take a second look. That small, P mint mark, those clean lines on Monticello, or a subtle doubling on the letters could mean you're holding something truly special. Because, as the 1994 P reminds us, even the most ordinary-looking coin can sometimes carry an extraordinary story, and a surprising value. Moving on to the next coin, we're stepping back a little further in time, to the 1988 P Jefferson nickel. A coin that might not seem too old at first, but one that carries a few surprises beneath its familiar surface. The late 1980s were a transitional time for U.S. coinage. Minting was becoming more efficient, yet the machinery was still prone to small mechanical quirks that could create interesting varieties. For collectors today, that mix of modernization and imperfection makes the coins from this era worth a closer look. The 1988 P nickel was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which is what the small letter P below the date represents. The mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins that year, each one made from the same copper-nickel blend that gives the Jefferson nickel its distinct silvery tone. They weigh 5 grams, measure just over 21 millimeters across, and were built to last, sturdy little pieces of history that often outlive the hands that spend them. On the obverse, or front, we see the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, designed by Felix Schlag. Jefferson faces left, his gaze calm, framed by the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," followed by the date 1988. Flip it over, and there's Monticello, Jefferson's elegant Virginia estate, centered beneath E pluribus unum and surrounded by United States of America, and 5 cents. At a glance, it looks like any other nickel from that period, but that's where the story gets more interesting. A few 1988 P nickels stand out because of how they were made. Some show unusual die wear, where small details in Jefferson's hair or Monticello's columns appear softer or slightly distorted due to overused minting dyes. Others show misaligned strikes, a faint but noticeable shift where the design doesn't perfectly line up with the rim. But the most intriguing examples are those linked to a die transition error, coins that were struck using early or mismatched die hubs meant for a different production year. These errors are incredibly rare because they occur when the mint is preparing new tooling between annual production runs. A few of these 1988 P nickels show subtle design differences that match later year issues, suggesting that test dies or prototype hubs were used briefly before being replaced. For coin experts, those small differences mean everything. They're the kind of details only visible under magnification, a slightly different shape in Jefferson's eye, or the spacing of a letter just a fraction off. But for those who know what to look for, those tiny traits can transform a regular 5-cent coin into something extraordinary. Another factor that makes this coin fascinating is how difficult it is to find in pristine condition. Most of the 1988 nickels were heavily circulated, spending years in pockets, jars, and drawers. Finding one with bright luster, no scratches, and sharp definition is already a challenge. Finding one that also carries a unique minting anomaly is even rarer. That combination is what truly excites collectors. By the late 1980s, full step strikes on Jefferson nickels were already becoming harder to come by. The steps on Monticello are fine and delicate, and the striking pressure often wasn't enough to bring them out cleanly. So, a 1988 P nickel showing all 6 steps clearly defined is a gem on its own. When it also happens to be from an unusual die variety, its value climbs significantly. What's remarkable about coins like this isn't just their rarity, but the story they tell about the minting process itself. Each one is a record of a precise moment when something slightly unexpected happened, a brief overlap of craftsmanship and imperfection. Every scratch, every subtle variation, becomes part of that story. For collectors, these moments are what make the hobby rewarding. They remind us that history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in small details, waiting to be noticed by someone patient enough to look closely. Many who found remarkable 1988 P nickels described the moment as pure surprise, discovering that a coin they'd overlooked for years turned out to be something truly special. It's a quiet kind of discovery, the kind that connects you to both history and the people who made these coins decades ago. As the years have passed, the number of high-quality 1988 P nickels has naturally decreased. Most have been worn down or lost, leaving only a few examples in near-perfect condition. Those survivors, especially the ones tied to minting varieties or transitional features, have gained remarkable attention in the numismatic world. And that brings us to the most astonishing part of this story. Among those few exceptional examples, a 1988 P Jefferson nickel in top-grade condition, with a rare transitional die characteristic, has been valued at around $62,000. Not because of hype or speculation, but because it represents one of those rare moments when precision, timing, and preservation align perfectly. It's incredible to think that a 5-cent piece, something made for everyday use, could reach such a level of significance. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. Value isn't just about age or metal content, it's about uniqueness, condition, and the story behind each piece. So, if you ever come across a 1988 P nickel that looks a little sharper, a little different, or simply too perfect to ignore, hold on to it. You might just be looking at one of the few that turned an ordinary year of minting into a chapter of numismatic legend. In the last part of today's journey, we arrive at a coin that has captured the attention of collectors for decades, the 1979 D Jefferson nickel. A coin from the late 1970s, seemingly ordinary in circulation, yet holding a remarkable story for those who know where to look. The 1979 D nickel was produced at the Denver Mint, marked by the D near the date. This small letter signifies a facility with a rich history of innovation and precision in minting. That year, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these nickels, intended for everyday use, groceries, vending machines, parking meters, and pocket change. But among all those coins, a select few would go on to attract extraordinary interest. On the obverse, Jefferson's familiar profile greets us once again. Designed by Felix Schlag, this portrait shows Jefferson facing left, calm and composed, framed by "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" alongside the date 1979. The reverse features Monticello in all its architectural elegance, complete with "E Pluribus Unum, United States of America," and 5 cents. Its design is understated yet precise, a symbol of enduring craftsmanship that connects the past with the present. At first glance, this coin might seem like just another nickel from the late 20th century. But the 1979 D has earned a reputation among collectors for certain exceptionally well-preserved specimens and rare striking details. Some coins from this year exhibit an unusually sharp strike, every line on Monticello's columns crisp, every curve on Jefferson's hair clearly defined. Others were saved almost immediately after leaving the mint, preserving their original luster and surface quality. Collectors often talk about the thrill of finding a nickel that seems almost untouched by time. The 1979 D is a perfect example. Its relatively modern minting makes high-grade examples especially rare. While millions were produced, very few have survived decades in pristine condition, untouched by circulation, scratches, or natural wear. Some coins from this year also show minor die varieties, subtle differences caused by adjustments in the minting process. These could include faint doubling in lettering, slight shifts in the rim, or other small anomalies that are only visible under magnification. For a collector, spotting these differences is like uncovering a hidden layer of history, proof that even mass-produced coins can carry individual uniqueness. One reason the 1979 D is so admired is how it bridges eras. It's a modern coin, yet it connects directly to a long tradition of Jefferson nickels, a design that has endured since 1938. Holding a well-preserved example, you can see the attention to detail and the work of mint technicians who ensured each coin met strict quality standards. It's a reminder that coins aren't just currency, they are miniature pieces of art and history. Condition is everything for this coin. A high-grade 1979 D shows full, sharp details, vibrant mint luster, and no significant wear. It's a coin that looks almost as if it just left the mint, despite being over 40 years old. These examples are incredibly rare because so many nickels of this era were spent in daily life, gradually losing their original perfection. The appeal goes beyond just the physical coin. There's a story in every scratch avoided, every surface preserved, and every detail that remains crisp decades later. It's a tangible connection to history, a small, 5-cent piece that quietly embodies the era in which it was made. For collectors, that sense of connection is priceless. Adding another layer of intrigue, some 1979 D nickels were found with exceptional mint luster, a natural sheen that reflects light beautifully and highlights even the smallest details. These coins almost glow under careful inspection, and their surfaces reveal the artistry of the mint's process in a way that standard circulated examples cannot. Over the years, the 1979 D nickel has become one of the most sought-after modern Jefferson nickels, not for any dramatic rarity, but because of the combination of its quality, condition, and subtle production nuances. Each coin that survives in exceptional form is a snapshot of the mint's craftsmanship and the care it took during their production year. For anyone exploring the hobby, discovering a 1979 D nickel in high-grade condition is a small thrill, a moment where attention to detail and patience meet historical significance. It's a coin that reminds us that careful preservation can turn something ordinary into a true standout. And now, for those who have followed our journey through today's coins, the final chapter is fittingly remarkable. Among the top condition examples, one 1979 D Jefferson nickel has sold for $71,000, recognized for its near-perfect strike and pristine surfaces. This remarkable figure shows how even a simple 5-cent coin can become a highly prized treasure when history, precision, and condition align perfectly. So, as we close our tour of these incredible nickels, the 1979 D stands as a fitting finale, a coin that reminds us to look closely at the ordinary, to appreciate subtle craftsmanship, and to recognize that sometimes, the most remarkable finds are hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed exploring these incredible nickels with us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more fascinating coin stories and collectibles. Like this video if you found it interesting, and share it with friends who love history, coins, or treasure hunts. We'd also love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us which coin was your favorite or if you've ever found a rare one yourself. Your support means the world to us, and it helps keep this channel going strong. Thank you for being part of our journey.